to the November SMART program. It's good to see so many faces here. I get now why you guys don't sit down the front. As I was working my way down those stairs in heels, it's like, okay, it's a little hard to get down in front. I've got a couple of announcements that I want to make sure everybody is aware of before we get to our program today, so I'm going to start the announcements now, so we've got plenty of time for our program and for Q&A as a part of that. First of all, I'd like to recognize anyone who was nominated for an Employee of the Year, Heart of the School, or Team of the Year award. If you were nominated for an award, would you please stand? If you're here. I know that one of our nominees was here. Okay, somebody's not standing, but they were nominated. I just saw Robert go back up. We have over 1,000 staff in the School of Medicine. So to have been nominated out of a field of 1,000 prospective nominees was a huge honor. So if you were nominated, I want to encourage you to continue to do your important work. I want to recognize the folks who were the award recipients this year. For Employee of the Year, the winner was Amy Kuiper out of the Undergraduate Medical Education Office. For Heart of the School, the winner was Sarah Gardner. And for Team of the Year, the members were out of cardiovascular and thoracic surgery, and they were Mike Sabinski, Karen Lott, Laura Lott, Carrie Woolard, and Todd Adams. So if you see those individuals, if you work with them, remember to give them a congratulations. How many of you are enrolled in WHIL, W-H-I-L, the mindfulness app? Yay, good to see those hands. There are some wonderful upgrades that are coming to WHIL. WHIL is free. If you have not enrolled, give it a try. I don't use it as much as I would like to, but when I use it, I'm always glad that I have it. It's a mindfulness app. The subscription is usually $150 a year. Dr. Gansel has committed to making the app available to up to 500 people in the school. We were able to negotiate a price that was much less than the $150 subscription cost. But we will not be able to continue these programs if they don't seem to be programs that appeal to you. And so if you haven't tried it, I encourage you to sign up and try WHIL. We sent out several emails with the link, so you can go back in your smart emails and get the link. But if you don't have that email anymore, just send me an email, karan.chavis@louisville.edu, and I'll make sure that you get the link sent back out. It's free to you. There's no cost. There is a cost to the school, but it's free to you. And you sign up, and it gives you a lot of opportunities to practice mindfulness or to have some personal coaching, to do stress management. You can actually practice some of the activities with other people if you choose to, or you can do them individually. But you won't know how it works unless you get in and give it a try. So I encourage you to enroll in WHIL. For those of you who have WHIL, I've spoken to them in the last couple of weeks. They're doing some wonderful upgrades to the app. They're going to offer more personal coaching sessions on the app, and they're also going to have more diversity of presenters and of content. And so you'll see these upgrades happening. I think the effective date is December 7th. If you have favorites that you have marked in WHIL, and if you want to save your history, you should have gotten an email from WHIL this week. If you'll reply to that email and tell them that you want to save your history or you want to save your favorites, they can work with you to do that. If you don't send them an email, when they set off the new features, you're going to lose your history and your favorites. So if you want to keep them, just reply to that email from WHIL that's telling you about the new features, and then they will help you save your favorites and your history. The mindfulness room. How many of you have been to the mindfulness room? I don't go nearly enough. Those that haven't gone, go check it out. It's a space. It's in 304, the A building. It's on the 3rd floor. You'll know it when you see it because it's got a big green carpet. It looks very serene in there. This is a nice place for you to go and practice mindfulness. If you're saying, I don't know what mindfulness is and I don't know how to practice it. If you missed Dr. Klein's program about a year ago, if you've missed the September program where we had some samples of mindfulness, Tai Chi, and yoga, You don't have to be an expert. There are some CDs in the mindfulness room that will guide you through. Take a friend, go practice mindfulness. We will be, I want to actually continue to tell you that we're going to be doing Tai Chi and yoga through the rest of this year. It will be winding down soon, so if you haven't had a chance to experience Tai Chi, that's Monday and Wednesday at noon. It's generally out on the plaza, but if weather is bad, it's on the second floor of Able. Yoga is on the, it's generally scheduled for the second floor reception area or the entry area of Able. We have a class in the mornings at 7:30 and a class at noon, and that's on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Those classes are free. If you can't go every day, that's okay. We want to make this opportunity for you to get more aware of what Tai Chi and yoga can do for you, because we're trying to help support best practices in your well-being. There is no SMART program for the month of December. We generally know that that's a short month because of the holiday and a lot going on, so we don't do a program in December. But coming back in the new year, I want to make you aware of a couple of things that are going on. The retreat date is scheduled for May 17th. Save the date. We've got some great speakers lined up. It's going to be a great program. James Etta Ferguson worked very hard last year on the retreat as the committee chair, and she and her committee were able to bring a fabulous retreat to the staff as our first retreat, and we're going to try to emulate her model for this coming year. So save the date for May 17th as the retreat date, and then in April we'll be having the icebreaker. We're hopeful to have it outside again this year, but if weather forces us in Kornhauser, we'll make that work. You should have gotten an email in the last day or so on the Deck the Doors contest. So you may ask, so what does Deck the Doors and the icebreaker have to do with anything? This has to do with team building. There are activities that are designed to engage you and your colleagues, your supervisor, your department chairs, your unit leaders, in activities that are team building exercises. And so if you're going to deck your place, the prize is lunch with your decorating group. It's just a good team building exercise. We think this is a good time of year to have a little team building. And the icebreaker is the same. You may remember last year we had a hat contest, and that was a hat to be modeled by your unit leader, so your department chair, the dean modeled last year, your unit leaders. And so this is just an exercise for you to engage with your coworkers, engage with your leadership, and do some fun things that help tie your teams together. Our talk today is going to be brought to us by Major Aaron Graham. He is with the University of Louisville Police Department Support Services. He's going to talk about emergency preparedness in an active shooter situation. I think the heading of his program is Run, Hide, and Fight. As we look this week at the unsettling activity at Ohio State, we know that this is maybe a timely topic, sadly. I've done workshops on this topic 3 times. Once here, this is the first time at U of L, and 2 other times at other institutions of higher education and schools of medicine. And the timing is such that every week, the week of every time we've done this program, there's been a shooting or some act of violence. And I thought, gee, are we just bad luck in our timing? And no, it's actually, I think the frequency it's gotten to where it's unsettlingly often. And so we want to bring you information that will hopefully keep you safe and keep you knowledgeable in a worst case scenario. Knock wood, I hope we never have a situation like that here at the University of Louisville. But if we do, I want you all and our leadership of our school wants you all to be as prepared as you can be in a situation so that you can protect yourself and hopefully come out actually unharmed. Major Graham is working in the Department of Support Services, and under his direction, the active shooter education program has expanded to ensure that across the university community there's a greater understanding of the policy and the protocols and what should we do in the worst case scenario. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce to you Major Aaron Graham, who is our presenter today. Let's welcome him.
Give me can you hear me this way? Everybody can hear me? All right, well, I'll put the live on, so just give me a quick second here while I get hooked up. But I'll talk loud until I get this hooked up. This is going to be a presentation on active shooter, and we've been doing this for a while, and I was asked to do this for this group, whereas this is the forgotten group from the University of Louisville for some reason. All things HSC kind of disappear, because I live in the land of Belknap, so everything is Belknap as far as my role is concerned. But I'm glad to be here today. And test. All right. Now can everybody hear me? That better? All right, good enough. My name is Major Aaron Graham. I'm with the University of Louisville Police. I've been with the university for 8 years. 8 years now. Prior to that, I was with the Louisville Police Department, then the Louisville Metro Police Department, where I spent just under 24 years. And I retired here to the university. I didn't plan to come to the university. I was asked to come over and talk. And then I heard something about tuition remission, and then I made no bones about leaving quickly. I actually retired on a Friday and started at the University of Louisville on a Monday. So I had a whole weekend to enjoy my retirement. But now I've been here. And one of the things that I've been doing over the course of the last 5 years is presenting active shooter presentations. It's something that we brought from Louisville Metro, from the city in general. We're very aware of what was going on in the world, if not the United States, and we thought that it was something that we should bring to the university. What we didn't anticipate at that particular time was that there was a little bit of pushback in terms of us getting this information out. And we fought and we fought and we fought. So basically the history of it is that we were able to do this through new employee orientation first, just giving a little snippet of information, and then we expanded that. Now we're actually putting on various trainings through HR, which we started at the beginning of this year, and we did it on a trial run. It's had a lot of good feedback, so that's something that we will probably continue. The last basic pieces of the puzzle that are missing in terms of getting this information out are HSC, for one, and the other part is the student body as a whole. We still have not developed a program that we can get this information out to the students as they come in or at any time while they're matriculating at the university. So we're still working on that. Now, one of the things that we are working on is that we now have some of the information up on HR's website, and we're in the process, at least in the planning stages, of creating a video with information that we can again post that will be U of L centric. Because right now we're at the mercy of information and media that actually comes from someplace else that just gives the basic information, which you'll be seeing here today. Now, in terms of what we're going to be doing here today, first of all, you'll see that I'm a mover. I don't like being behind a lectern at all. So I will move a little bit. I will actually not roam the stage like I normally do when I'm in a normal group. So I'll try to be as stationary as I possibly can. But the other thing is that despite this particular venue, and it's good to see that staff is no different than any students. Everybody likes to sit in the back, but that's okay. I'll live with that. I'm very informal. So if you have a question, don't hesitate to raise your hand up because I'll stop. This is pretty free-flowing. And there'll be ample time at the end of this so that if you have any questions, any concerns, whether it be related to active shooter, anything that's occurring here at HSC, you can ask that question. Because there are two people here in the audience, here in the front. First is Lieutenant Harold Miller. He's with the Louisville Police, U of L Police Department. He's the commander of the patrol units here at HSC. And sitting down right behind him is Mindy Christian. She is with Environmental Health and Safety for HSC. Anything that deals with emergency preparation, anything with active shooter, anything that you may have concerns about, you can go through Mindy or Lieutenant Miller. and they'll be happy to come out to you or answer any of your questions. And we'll kind of talk about that even more so as we get on through the program. Now, but what we're here to do today is talk about active shooter. And I used to have to explain what active shooter situations were. I don't have to do that any longer, because I think you just saw what happened in the last couple of days at Ohio State. And what you see behind me is run, hide, and fight. For some reason, that got a lot of play in the news media because of the simplicity of it. But believe me, there was a lot of work that went into to come up with that title, Run, Hide, Fight. I can tell you there were countless numbers of white papers that were written. There were symposia. There were a lot of things that were actually done to determine what is the appropriate action that people should take if there is an active shooter situation. And about 3 years ago, Homeland Security and the FBI, they came up with, well, there's only 3 options, which we already knew. You can run, you can hide, or you can fight. What we're going to be doing today is basically just kind of going over that. I'm not going to tell you anything that is going to be earth-shattering. It is going to be essentially commonsensical information. It's going to make sure that you understand what it is that we would like for you to do, what it is that you probably should do in the event that something like this should take place at the university. Now, there's another video that we used to show, and it was subtitled When Lightning Strikes. And basically what that referred to is the fact that that is about the same frequency that an active shooter situation can take place in any given location. It is almost the same frequency as being struck by lightning. It is random, it is rare. However, that doesn't mean that you should go away and hide and pretend like it's never going to happen. There has to be some level of preparation. So everything that we put on, everything that Homeland Security puts on, anything that the FBI recommends, it is not based on giving you exact protocol. It's giving you the basic information so that no matter where you are, at the University of Louisville, in a shopping mall, you have the information that you would need to actually potentially survive an active shooter situation. You would know how to react. Now, I'm going to start off here by showing you a short video. The video is basically going to tell you everything that you really need to know about an active shooter situation. It's going to break it down to the 3 set ideas here, run, hide, and fight, and it'll tell you what you need to do. When we get through with that, then I'll come back in. It's going to be more or less a reiteration with a little bit more detail, a little bit more U of L-centric information. But the information is going to be repeated over and over and over so that it becomes ingrained in you. And then we'll add in one more element. Now, quick disclaimer on the video. It's only about 5 minutes long, a little over 5 minutes. It is graphic in its depiction of what could occur at an active shooter situation. However, it is not gory. It is graphic. So I just need to make sure that everybody's aware of that because I don't want to upset anyone. And when we come back out of it, I'll give you the second part of the disclaimer. It may feel like just another day at the office, but occasionally life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces. But sometimes bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary, but the devastating effects are the same.
unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference. Run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try to escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to be with you, but don't let them slow you down with the decision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind. Try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority. Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911. If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration motor yourself. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. As a last resort, if your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. Try to be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly. The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter. Your actions can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
All right, let me give you the post-video disclaimer. I hope I didn't upset anyone. That's not what the purpose of the video is meant to be. What it is meant to do is give you that basic information that will help you potentially survive an active shooter situation. Now, kind of give you some ideas about active shooter situation. First of all, they're never the same. Not one thing is usually that is consistent through all of these, with the exception of the person who's doing it wants to create as much mayhem as they possibly can. That is about it. There's no one single profile of an active shooter. They all have their individual reasons for doing whatever they did. They all come from a different background. They come from multiple backgrounds. There's no one race, gender, creed, anything that defines a true active shooter. It's random, just like the event just like the event itself. So the one thing that we've been able to do is make sure that you understand what it is that we expect you to do. And the first thing is that you have to understand your situation. And the way we basically explain that here at the university is that you have to understand your environment. You have to make sure that you understand exactly what it is that you're going to do, where you work, where you maneuver on a regular basis. And if you do that, then you've already won a portion of that battle in case something does occur. Now, what we mean by understanding your environment is that you work in a building, you come here every day, you know exactly what you're going to do. You need to learn your building. You need to learn exactly how you're going to get out of that building in case something does occur. So what you need to do is take the time and learn the access points. Now, how many of you, and I just do this by a quick show of hands, how many of you come in every day and use the same door every day when you come into work? Pretty much everybody. Do you know if there are any other doors in your building that you could possibly use? All right, well, I'm just as guilty of that as anybody else. You get in automatic pilot. Now, here's another quick quiz for you. How many bridges are there that connect us to southern Indiana? 3? What, how many? 4? 5? Okay, good enough. Nobody knows. Soon to be 5 bridges, maybe 6 if you count the walking bridge, if you count the pedestrian bridge. However, I can tell you in all the years of my experience working with the police, and that was when we only had 3 bridges, if we shut any one of those 3 bridges down for any reason, we paralyzed a third of the population on both sides of the river because they had no concept on how to get across. I've shut down the 2nd Street Bridge, and they'll come to the foot of the bridge and they'll say, what are you doing? Well, you can't get across the bridge. And they say, well, why not? And, well, something's going on. Well, then how am I supposed to get over there? And the same thing was occurring on the Indiana side as well. That's because we get accustomed to just using one way in, one way out. And if something does occur, then you're paralyzed, just like those people. So the first thing is, in terms of knowing your environment, learn your particular buildings. Learn the area that you actually work in. Not just your building, but any building that you may be frequenting on a regular basis. Learn as many access points as you possibly can, because that is going to help you in case something occurs. Not just an active shooter situation, any emergency situation. If there's a fire and your main door is blocked, what are you going to do? You need to know where to go. So take the time to learn exactly what your building is comprised of. Same thing as far as your offices. If you do have the luxury of having an office, some of you may live in cube world, but learn how those doors work. Do they open from the inside? Do they open in or out? Can you lock them from the inside? Can you secure it in any fashion at all? If you can't, what's the best way for you to do it? Another portion of that is, and when we get into that, when you get into the hide, is this a secure place? Are there more secure areas that I can go to? So the first thing is making sure that you're aware of your environment. That takes some observation. That takes planning. The key thing is, and I'll go back to that, remember that when we're in these situations, any type of emergency situation, especially an active shooter, the first priority is to protect yourself. You're the number one thing that you're working for. Yes, we live in a large community. Yes, we want to make sure that everybody is safe, but ultimately, you're the number one thing that is important in terms of getting out and getting to safety. If you can do that and do help others, fantastic. But remember, you need to take care of yourself first. What we like to do is, like I use the analogy of police officers. Police officers, we respond to just about everything. Now, if I'm driving 150 miles an hour to get to a report run, and I wreck my car, then I've done nothing. I'm not able to do my job. Same thing when it applies to you. Make sure that you can get yourself out, and then if you have the time, if you have the awareness, then you can help somebody else. Make sure you have that plan in place. Now we say it's run, hide, and fight. First thing you're going to do is run. How many of you had the opportunity to actually read the policy and safety information that's on the intranet for the University of Louisville? One person. You get the prize today. Yay. Okay, let me just summarize it for you right now. If you go through our policy and go through all the safety information, the first thing that we tell you to do is run away. And the way I like to express that, if you hear gunshots over here, where are you going to do? And where are you going to go? You're going to go this way. That's what we want you to do. That's about 3/4 of our policy right there. I've summarized it for you. You don't have to read it any longer, and I'm sorry you did. But you're going to actually run the opposite direction. Again, this is where it becomes paramount that you understand how your building operates, where you're going to go. Now, in each of these little categories, and I'll start with the run, everything has a purpose. So if you're going to run away, you need to run to some place that is safe, and you need to run with a purpose so that everybody else knows exactly what you're doing, and then they should follow suit. And what I mean by that is that there should be some type of coordination, because one of the things that's going to help us in the long run is that we have to account for everybody that works in a particular building. So in a sense, you have to do that as well. Someone within your unit, within your group, is going to have to do that as well. So what we want you to do is run with a purpose. Run to a designated location. Determine what that location is going to be amongst yourselves. So I know it's very easy that you could just run away, jump into your car, drive back home, and everything would be okay. But we want to make sure that you're safe. We want to make sure that everybody in your building is safe. So run with a purpose. Run to a point of safety, given wherever the danger may be. And then once you get there, stay there and do an accounting of everybody. So that way, when the police do respond, what's going to happen is that we'll have a better understanding of who might still be in that building. And we've accounted for almost everybody that is there. So this is where Mindy and Lieutenant Miller would come in. They help you coordinate that. Because every building isn't like that. Because every building has, or should have, a building emergency coordinator. And it is comprised of all the people that should be in that area. And you come to a consensus in terms of what you're going to do. You're going to come to a consensus in terms of what your emergency plan will be. And that's where Mindy and Lieutenant Miller can help you coordinate that. Because only you can make that decision. We can't tell you exactly what to do. You have to make sure you understand it for yourself. But remember, the first thing you're going to do is run. Second thing, again, this is all in your planning. This is all being aware of your environment. You're going to hide. If I can't get away, I need to find some place that is going to give me the ultimate amount of concealment and safety. Now, the way that we make sure that you kind of understand that, you think of whatever the situation may be. If there's gunfire involved, you want to locate what we call a hard target. Who wants to guess what a hard target would be? A what? Solid wall. Perfect. A lot of drywall in all of these buildings, but there's a lot of solid concrete block in some of these buildings. So the harder that wall is, the more safety you have. Bullets can't penetrate that. So you may want to locate those areas. If you can't, then you want to locate the most secure area that you possibly can. And secure it either by lock, either by being able to block that door, do anything you possibly can to make sure that you're okay. Now, again, you have a purpose. Once you hide, the reason why you're hiding is that you don't want anybody to find you. That's it. So once you get in there, then you have to remain as quiet as you possibly can. Now, the best example I can give you, there was an incident that occurred a few years back in Mumbai, India. And it was a hotel that was actually taken over by a group of hostage takers, if you want to call them that. They took over an entire hotel. Now, prior to that attack, the hotel staff had actually been trained just like you're getting now. And they were explained what you need to do, how to take care of all the patrons that are in our hotel, how to take care of yourself, where to take them, where to put them so that you remain safe. and they followed that plan almost explicitly. One group went to a room, they secured themselves, they turned out the lights, turned off everything, sat down very quietly, but what they didn't account for, there was one person who was a resident or actually staying at the hotel, and he opened up his phone. And he started texting back and forth with a local television station. And beyond that, then he started giving an interview with that television station. And it was going out live. Well, the bad people actually had their televisions on so they could see that. So they knew that there was a group of people that they hadn't accounted for. So once you do hide, your purpose is to stay there and remain as quiet until you get an all clear. Now, being here at the university, you'll get an all clear from us, from the university itself. How many of you signed up to receive the emergency alerts? Fantastic. That is going to be your conduit of information. No matter what you think is going on outside, no matter how quiet it might be, once you get into a position where you're hiding, the first thing you want to do is stay there until someone says it is okay for you to come out. And I don't care who knocks on your door, who they say they might be, you want to stay there until you get the all clear, and that's where the text messaging is going to be. Now, the phones are going to be on silent. There's not going to be any ringing. There won't be any fun ringers going off, but you will get that text message. If you don't have the text message, if you're in a place that has a university phone, you're going to see that message on the phone itself. So you are going to get the information for the all clear, but you're going to remain there as long as you possibly can. Always make sure that you're hidden as best way you can. Now, the other thing is, and there's two different versions of hiding. You can hide, and you can hide with better concealment. So if you are in a location and you don't think it is as secure as you think it could be, then you need to stop and think, is there another place I could go safely where it will give me more security than I am now? That's part of the planning. Again, this is all the planning. So, but you want to make sure you map this all out beforehand. Now, the last thing that we talk about, and the one thing that most people don't want to talk about, is that the last resort, when you have no option left at all, you weren't able to run, or you ran right into trouble, or you were able to hide, or weren't able to hide, then your last resort is to fight. You have no other choice. Now, when I first came to the university, one of the things that was in one of our safety information bulletins was that you needed to negotiate. If you were confronted with someone who was an active shooter or an active aggressor, you needed to negotiate with them. Well, no, you don't. And that was one of the first things that I made sure that was taken away, that there is no negotiation, because that person has a plan to create as much mayhem as possible. So therefore, you need to come up with a plan to protect yourself, because you're just going to become a victim at that point in time. So you do have to come up with a plan, and you have to fight aggressively. This is going to take the planning. This is where the planning actually comes into play. Because what we do as police officers is that it's exactly what we do continuously, is that we plan. We plan for the eventualities of any situation. So no matter what is going on with you, if I'm talking to you now, I'm looking at the entire group, or if I'm talking to you even if I was down on the floor, I'm still thinking that what's going to happen if this person decides that they don't like me and they're going to hit me? What am I going to do? Even though I know there's a remote, very little chance of that actually occurring, but I'm actually preparing mentally. I'm doing the visualization to make sure. That's the kind of thing that you need to do. If something happens to me here in this location, what am I going to do? How am I going to react? Well, first of all, you're going to act ultra aggressively if it's a fight. And then remember, you're here at the university, you have a lot of weapons at your beck and call. You just don't think of them as such. You have boxes of food, you have purses, you have laptops, you have anything here. I've got 4 spears sitting here on the stage with me right now. So those are the things. It's going to be impromptu in terms of what you're going to do. And if necessary, you're just going to use your physical attributes, whatever they may be. The other thing is that in most cases, you're going to be in a group. There's going to be at least 2 of you, maybe more, probably more. So you need to think as a group. Again, think about police officers. And all the things that you've seen in the news, whether it's good or bad, think about how we react to most things. We generally do not react individually. We act as a group because we know there's strength in numbers. That's the same mentality that you need to make sure that you understand that you have. And you need to come up with what they said in the video, a plan. Just a simple plan. Now, this is the part where I get to pick people out. Your name is? Shelly. And your name is? Janet? Shelly and Janet. Shelly and Janet are stuck in a room somewhere. Active shooter comes in, the aggressor comes in. They don't have any way of getting out. They have to come up with a simple plan. Well, you like football? Okay, you like football. So Shelly, since she loves football, she's going to put on the nastiest low hit that you've ever seen, a tackle. She's going to tackle this person, and she's going to focus strictly on that person's feet. At the same time, Janet is going to jump on that person's back and do anything that she can to subdue him. And they're going to hold on and scream and yell and do everything they can, first of all, to save themselves and to bring attention to themselves to get someone there to help them. And they'll hold on for dear life. That's strength in numbers. That is a simple plan. Now, you saw what I like to call in the video the tableau, where everybody's standing there with a coffee pot, the chair, and everything else. That's exactly what you need to do. You need to think in terms of that. Now, what you also saw in that particular tableau is that you had maybe 5 people that had some kind of improvised weapon ready to go, and you had 1 person that didn't. That's reality. That's what you have to be prepared for. You have to be ready because not everyone is going to react the same way. You need to make sure that you're secure in terms of what you're going to do and you're going to execute it, but there's going to be someone who's not. So that person will be moved to the side, and they'll do that naturally, but you need to carry out whatever it is that you're going to do. Now, I've done this a lot of times, and some of you have heard this before. You know, in some of these presentations, actually somebody asked me if it was okay if someone reacted and they became hysterical, could we hit them? And of course, I have to dance around that one. No, you can't hit them, because the only thing that popped in my head is the movie Airplane, where they're smacking that woman as they go through, while they're going through. No, but what you have to do is make sure that you understand what you're going to do and get that person out of the way if they're not going to assist you. But you're going to have to fight, and fight like you've never done before. And again, this is the planning phase. Now, I told you earlier that active shooters do not have, there's no one set profile. However, there is one common denominator amongst all of them, is that they've usually planned this out well in advance. You think about some of the ones that have occurred in the last few years. Think about Aurora, Colorado. That person planned that particular incident at least 6 months out. There's a lot of pre-planning, but the one thing that they never plan for is someone standing up to them, because they have a focus and you need to maintain your focus, but they don't expect anyone to break theirs. They're going to actually accomplish what they want. What you need to do is make sure you break their focus, and that gives you that leverage that you need. That gives you that upper hand. The best example of that one is the second Columbine shooting, and it was at a middle school campus, and a young man came onto the campus, began shooting just like you've seen in all the other events, and what he didn't anticipate was that there was a teacher there that actually had taught him years before and recognized him, called him by his first name. In the split second that it broke, because he wasn't anticipating someone calling him by name, he turned, stopped shooting, and that gave that teacher just enough time to run over and grab him, tackle him, hold him, and get some more assistance until the police actually arrived and actually were able to take him away. That's what you're trying to do as well. You need to make sure that you plan that way, distract, then you attack with as much ferocity as you possibly can. What you need to do is make sure you have that plan in place. You make sure that you're ready to do that. A lot of that, again, is visualization. The key thing is that I want you to become a little bit paranoid, but not extremely paranoid, like police officers are, because we're a very paranoid group of people because of what we deal with every day. I plan, I visualize in almost every situation that I'm in, whether it be in the grocery store. So I'm planning on running people over with with grocery carts, and I don't care who they may be. I'm going to throw canned goods at them until I can get to a place of safety or get to a position where I have a little bit more of an advantage. And I do the same thing at home. Now, I've been married for a long time, and a very long time, but I'm always in the doghouse. It doesn't make any difference what I do. So even when I'm at home, I can be sitting in my chair on the couch, and my wife is in the kitchen. She's cutting up things in the kitchen, getting her dinner ready. I'm thinking, I know I messed up somehow. What am I going to do? She's going to come at me with these knives in just a few minutes. And then how am I going to react? Well, I'm going to flip over the couch here. I'm going to come up behind her, put her in a headlock, disarm her. Now, that's extreme paranoia. Not too far from the truth, but it's extreme paranoia. But that is the type of visualization that you actually have to do. This is all pre-planning. So you start your pre-planning in terms of how I'm going to run away. Where am I going to run? How am I going to hide? How am I going to secure this room? Can I open up this window? Or is this window permanently sealed or painted shut? If I do jump out of the window, am I going to break both ankles? Well, I'd rather break both ankles than be dead. So those are things you pre-plan. If you're in a situation where you know that you've backed up and you have no other place to go, then you have to plan for that ultimate, if it should occur. Everything that you do, you're doing exactly like an active shooter. You're planning in advance. Now, what we would love to be able to do at the university is make sure that we could reinforce that through training and drills. That's going to take another level of planning on our part and convincing some of the people that are around us. But that's what we love to do. But that reinforces everything that we talk about. Now, when you do leave, when you run away, when you hide, you don't do anything, but when you run away and you're told to evacuate, information is going to be key to us throughout this entire process. If you are able to get away, then you need to call us because we live off of that information. So we don't care how many people call, because what we understand is that any time that an event occurs, you're going to get all kinds of information. All information is great information. I'll use Ohio State as an example. I heard active shooter. I heard a person with a machete and a knife. I heard people had been shot, which they were not. There was a lot of information that was coming out. That was all coming through. It's all good information. We will sift through that, but the more information we have, we can actually create a better picture as far as what's going on so that we understand what is happening. Remember, you're going to do everything with a purpose. So as soon as you're free, make sure you call us, get the information out to us. Now, a little bit in terms of what we do and how we respond. You heard it in the video itself. Once we respond, we have one mission. Our mission is to find the person who is actually creating all this mayhem. And at that point, we don't necessarily care about anybody that's in the building. We don't care about anybody that may have been injured in the course of this event. We're going to find that person. That'll be our first wave. Once we have made sure that that area is secure, there's going to be a second wave of people coming through, and they'll take care of everything else. They'll start the evacuations. They'll render the medical aid. But just remember, when we first make contact with you, at least in the beginning, we are not there to necessarily help you. We're just going to basically take an account to make sure that you're okay, how many of you are there, and we're going to move on and tell you to stay in place until, again, you get an all clear or someone comes to tell you that they're there to help, and we'll get you out. So that's how we respond. Now, if something was to occur here at HSC, you're going to get multiple response. You're going to get response from University Police. You're going to get response from the Louisville Metro Police. You'll probably have sheriff's deputies here. You'll probably have federal agents here. You'll have a multitude of people. Plus, there'll be emergency management people. There'll be fire departments, EMS. All the units that are available within an area will respond. I don't think, if you think back maybe to a year ago, there was an incident at JCC. It didn't affect this campus, even though we did put out an alert just to make sure that people knew to stay away. But they had that same level of response. So you had all the agencies responding at that location because we have no idea what's going to occur. Of course, there was nothing to it, but we still respond that way. So you need to get ready for that. Now, I've kind of gone through it, and I've left enough time here so that we have questions. Yes, ma'am.
Why not pointing?
Why don't what?
Why not pointing? It says no point, no point. So I'm quiet, but I'm showing you that you went that way. It says no pointing.
No pointing. Okay, the key thing is on the no pointing is that I just want to see your fingers. If you're pointing and you're saying that, maybe you can do that quietly, but what I want to see is this, because if I come into an area, then I don't know who you really are. You could be that bad person pretending to be someone else. So basically what's going to happen is that we get very mean at that point. We will tell you to get down on the ground. And I don't want to hear anything else. So we will be very, very nasty. Same thing if you evacuate an area. If you evacuate an area and there are police officers, which there will be, they're not going to help you. They're going to tell you to put your hands up, or sometimes they'll say put your hands up, get down on the ground, keep your hands where I can see them. Because again, we have no idea who you are. We have to discern who you are, where you're coming from, and then once we get you to a secure area, then we'll get that information, and then you can pass that information on to us. Because once you give us that, whether you're pointing, which I don't know where that is anyway, you can give us more detailed information, and then we can get that over the radio a lot faster and get it to the people that we need to. Any other questions? None? I'm not that thorough. I know I'm not that thorough. All right. Now, yes, ma'am.
So we don't do drills here. I'm familiar with other institutions of education where we do drills. But, so I'm not sure that in my own work unit, that we would know where to go in the event of just a fire or bomb threat evacuation or an active shooter. We wouldn't know who got out and who didn't get out.
Okay.
Because we don't have that.
No, there's never been any true drills. There may be some fire drills every once in a while. The person that you need to talk to is the person you're sitting next to. Mindy, as I said before, every building has a plan. Every building has someone who's designated as a building emergency coordinator who oversees that plan, and it's a plan that's actually created by consensus of the people that work there and floor leader.
Can we ask by show of hands who knows the plan in their work unit?
Okay, another question. Who knows who the building emergency coordinator is for their building? All right, that's a little bit better, at least. When was the last time that you actually met? All right, good question. There we go. So that's where you need to work. But again, it's Mindy and Lieutenant Miller will help. And again, our position is that we're consultants. We will help you walk through it, but essentially the plan is going to be a consensus. You'll figure out what's best for your group. But the key thing is, and the one thing that you want to make sure that's always in those plans, figure out, at least designate and mark where those access points where you can get out. That's always going to be there. And then a good emergency plan is going to cover every possible emergency situation that you can think of. It's like active shooter is just one, but there's fire, tornado, chemical spill, biological hazards. There's going to be, should be a plan, at least some kind of contingency for every single event that could potentially happen, especially given your areas. Yeah, I mean, it's like I've gone as far as the one of the buildings here, they have animals. So you got to figure out what you're going to do with the animals or what's going to happen with them as well, if they so desire. Or do you, because sometimes you don't want the animals running out. So there's a lot of things that you have to consider, and that's why we act as a consultant. There's no one universal plan because every building within the university system is unique. Everything has its own little idiosyncrasy. So I know it is here at HSC, and I know at Belknap as well. We have advising sessions here where you have advisors that just have rooms. And they're usually locked in a room with somebody. And they have no idea what's going on around them. So we have to take that in consideration as well. Yes, ma'am? That's going to be, Again, that would be contained in your plan. And the other thing, it has to be fluid because it depends on where the situation is going to be. So you probably have to designate more than just one, just depending on what the area that was being affected was dealing with. Now, because the one thing that I've always basically frowned on when I've had to help is that you can't have just one area, because what if that area is blocked off? What if that area is messed up? And the best example, and I like to point fingers because, you know, we work at a university, is that it was decided at the School of Arts and Sciences by the deans that staff would go this way and they would go this way. And I said, well, what was the reason behind that? I said, well, because that's what they wanted to do. And I said, well, what if the problem is over here? Then what do you do? And they said they didn't have an idea. So that was one of the things that you have to basically work together and figure out what is going to be the best. And it may be something where you have designation point A, B, and C. Another problem that you always have to encounter is how do you get information for some people that's not on this system, who doesn't receive the rave alerts or the text messaging. And this building here at Courthouse, I worked with them a few years back, they have an elaborate coding phone tree because they have multiple floors. So they can get on an intercom that will carry through and they'll say, they have a code word. So if they have someone at the desk that is giving them issues, they get the word through the entire building, and that way they can get the help that they really need. And they'll just say that Mr. So-and-so has just returned his overdue book. Well, that's a code word to let them know that there's trouble. Someone either needs to call, and they need assistance down at that front desk. So there are a lot of plans that you can come up, and it depends on your inventiveness and your ingenuity in terms of what's going to be best for you. Any other questions, concerns? Yes, Mindy.
That we invite the different departments to contact us. We'll come out and meet with their department, however few or however many, to go over their plan or go over any information they want.
Yeah, and Mindy and Lieutenant Miller are the people that you need to contact. As I said, I live in Belknap land, and I can come here, but I do not know the intricacies of HSC as well as they do. They're going to be the best to help you. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Since you are about that, you mentioned that students have anything from the organization or incoming students, what type of help do they receive?
We have to do it, we're inventive in terms of that. So a lot of it is done through housing, because there's certain programmatic things that the RAs have to put on throughout the year. So if they think of it, then that's when we get to come in and we'll actually present this program. But the, what? Then that's one thing that drops through the cracks, and we know that. The other thing is that all the RAs are trained. That's something that we have to do, and I do that every year. So the RAs actually have to work as my surrogate, and they try to provide the training as well. Yes, ma'am.
Our security guards within the buildings, do they receive training of some sort, or are they just kind of there to do?
All right. Well, you want to address that, Harold?
All right, when you say security guard, are you referring to the folks who wear the bright yellow shirt?
No, I'm referring to they have white shirts.
Yeah, if you're talking about a location that we currently don't own, but we lease space in, those guards are a different entity like G-Force or Glory Security. I'm told that those folks, after meeting with their security, they do have in-house training for various types of occurrences or what to do. They typically would call us or LMPD to respond to those locations also if it's something critical.
Yeah, the only security guards that we deal with or we supervise are the ones with the yellow shirts. The minion, we deal with the minion, that's it. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
How specific would the alerts be? Meaning, if we knew that there was commotion on this campus, would it say something like in the Maximum 2 building, or would it just say on the HSC campus?
We want to make it as specific as we possibly can because we want to make sure that everyone knows exactly the location, so that tells you what precautions that you need to make. That's why we need to get as much information. You know, the last thing we would want to do is put out something generalized like at the HSE campus. We would want to nail it down to a specific building or maybe 2 buildings. So if it goes out, it would say almost identical to what Ohio State said. They gave a street, building location, and then it said avoid that area. Take the necessary precautions. Of course, they said run, hide, and fight, but take the necessary precautions to do that. And the reason behind that is that we send out alerts, and we could send out an alert for Belknap, and you would receive it down here. The reason why we do it universally is because at first they said, no, we can do it in designated areas, and it's like, no, because we have people, staff, students, faculty that move between all the locations at any given time. So if you're en route and you're only getting the alert here and they're headed here, then they have no way of knowing it. So at that point, we try to make sure that everybody gets it, and we try to make it as specific as possible. It's still going to be very short and succinct, but we just want to nail it to the area as exactly as we possibly can. Yes, ma'am.
A lot of times after a shooting, you'll hear this summary of, their Facebook page showed they had threats, or they were taking pictures of themselves shooting different things and firearms and blowing things up. And then you wonder, how come no one sort of elevated this?
Well,
Can you speak to see something, say something?
yep, I'll do that. Now, I talked about being observant of your environment. One of the other things that you think would be normal is that you need to be observant of the people that you work with or deal with on a regular basis. Because that's exactly what Ms. Chavis just said, is that we know everything about this person after the fact. And what we always find out is that someone else knew about this person's behavior. So what you need to do is to make sure that if you see any kind of behavior that is that you think is troubling, or at least it's not in that person's normal behavior, then you need to make note of that. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to go to a supervisor or a dean or a department head. You can talk about someone else who knows this person to see if they've noticed it too. When it reaches a level where they are basically, it's alarming to the point where you think that they could do harm to themselves or to someone else, no matter who, then that's when you need to make sure you get that notification. That's when you go up to the police department, to your department head, to your supervisors, to the deans. Let someone know. The university has a lot of mechanisms already in place to actually intervene before anything can really get to that alarming level. But we have to know the information, and it means that you have to pay attention, and you have to be willing to let someone know. Now, also, this is the bad part of it, there is a university policy. And I'll tell you this one policy that is here, and if you know of anybody that has made a threat to anybody, whether they're a part of this university or not, and you didn't inform them, then HR will step in and there will be disciplinary action. So that's what you don't want to actually get to, is that if you know that someone has made a threat, and it doesn't make any difference to whom, then you need to let somebody know. But in terms of all the other behavior, you have to pay attention and make sure that you understand that it's out of character, need to watch it, or then it's at a point where it's alarming, I need to do something about it and let somebody know so that we can intervene. Yes, ma'am. Outcome? The outcome is I want to stay alive. I mean, there's no outcome. You need to stop that person as best you can so that they don't. The liability, I think you would be, I mean, that's like, I don't like talking in these generalities like this. This is super hypothetical. But if you're fighting for your life, I don't think you don't assume that much liability. There's no liability that's going to be heaped upon you, yes. there'll be certain things that we would have to do legally, but if you're fighting for your life, I don't think anyone's going to say anything as far as whatever the outcome. Whatever it takes to subdue that person and keep yourself safe. Okay, I don't want to, it's like you're frightening me already, so it's like that's okay, but that's okay, keep the plan. Yes, sir.
I heard somewhere that if for you to fight that you could first attempt to attack or control the weapon and the head, and I'm just, you know, going to comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of theories. Now, the reality of it is, you don't know what you're going to do until you actually do it. I can tell you from a police officer standpoint is that you do get tunnel vision. I get tunnel vision, most police officers do, especially if they see a weapon. So that's one thing that I am looking at, and that's the one thing that I see is that they have that weapon. You may do that, but I can't tell you there's no universal. I know that's where I'm looking to disarm that person as best I can, but I'm focusing in on that weapon and what he's going to do, what they're going to do with that weapon. And then it just kind of plays out from there. Yeah, I'm going to focus in on the weapon first, then the person second, and try to get that weapon away or disarm them somehow by any means. Anything else? Questions? Comments? You've got two police officers and an environment, a safety specialist here. You can ask us anything in the world. All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. We have one more?